I know some people who cried when they saw this, and I have to say that a lot of others, including myself, thought that this is the image and the moment when that's going to be burned into our minds forever, and we'll remember which place we were, where we were when we saw this, how we felt. So, and I agree with that. This was definitely absolutely phenomenal. One of the most amazing things that I've seen in my life. As you can probably remember, this wasn't even the main point of the entire mission, but the entire mission was really for the Falcon Heavy, the SpaceX a launch to not blow up, first of all, and carry the load, which was this little donation that Elon Musk has made for this mission, to make it into space, right? Because they, he is trying to get to Mars, and this was one of the first stages of being able to get a load like that out of the atmosphere into the space. And he said it even a couple of days before the mission. He said, listen, I think it's 50-50. No one has ever done this before. I think they were really concerned about the airflow that was flowing around the actual core, and what happens when it flows between the core and the boosters. But it went perfectly fine. It was absolutely unbelievable. Again, I'm just going to show you that video. These are the two boosters that separated from the core and went back and landed in this absolutely amazing show at the same time, right next to each other. Perfectly safe. They're reusable boosters, so that was one of the other things that they've been trying to prove, that this technology is possible. Now, yes, who just said it? Okay, the Thomas CZ says some naive idiots believe that it was fake. Yes, some people are kind of posting even videos sometimes about how this is all was done in the green screen. Of course, it is easy to disprove that because we have scientists. We have NASA scientists and international scientists and astronomers who have spotted and tracked already the Roadster in space, so it's there. You can't really argue with that. Also, there were a lot of witnesses. I mean, I'm all for entertaining theories, but this is just not one of those that really hold any water. Now, there were a couple of failures, right? I mean, people believe this is a huge success, which it was, because the Roadster was launched into space with David Bowie music and all of that stuff. It was great, but and of course boosters landed, but there were a few failures. First of all, let's start with the fact that the main core was supposed to land as well on the platform in the ocean, and unfortunately, when it was trying to slow itself down, 2 out of 3 engines just weren't able to ignite. They ran out of fuel, which was a little odd, I have to say, but nevertheless, it ended up slamming into the ocean at 300 miles an hour, only 300 feet away from the platform where it's supposed to land. So it actually damaged the motors that are powering that platform to go back to the shore. I believe there was still 1 or 2 operational, so it was able to make it to the shore, but that was a bit of a not such a perfect ending, but that's okay. Also, the video that was live video that we saw for the shot from the boosters. Let me see if I can launch this video again and see. Right now you're watching the 2 boosters, the shots of the at the ground that they had. Well, turns out that wasn't from 2 different boosters. Was from 1 booster, and it was I think delayed for half a second and then put on a screen. Later on, Space acknowledged that and actually updated their live video repost with the correct view from both boosters, and also they cut out part of the you could see the communication. You can hear the communication between with the launch director and just whoever is sort of vocalizing what's happening. And they basically said that they lost the core. Well, somehow that got cut out, which we kind of all know that that's what happened. Elon acknowledged that. So it was another little bit of an oddity. And the last one is then, you know, they were supposed to put that on a certain orbit, and they also overshot. They overshot Mars by a little bit, so it was kind of heading to the asteroid belt. And I haven't seen a good explanation, except for they've overdid it as far as how much power they put into the last like thrust to get to the orbit. But obviously that what didn't go perfectly. But again, the main point of the mission was definitely to get it into space and to prove it that it's possible, you know, with a 50-50 chance of this not being a success. Obviously, this is a great outcome. Let's see. Yes, too bad about the main core, says Ben. I wanted to see that. And I don't think they've even posted the video of the crash yet. I'm sure they have a video of the crash of the main core, but that didn't really happen. Now, so what we got to see is these absolutely amazing pictures from, I believe, the 3 cameras that are mounted on around this Roadster, with a dummy that's dressed in a spacesuit, the Starman, as they call it, and just absolutely amazing images of, you know, first of all, obviously the fastest car ever. Now that Tesla Roadster is officially the fastest car ever, traveling at ridiculous speeds out there, of course. And I mean, just, I think some people, you know, I asked in after that show in a question of the day, I believe, and I said, hey guys, what do you think was the most amazing thing about it? Like, what was the imagery that you were absolutely stunned by? And somebody said this. Somebody said that they absolutely loved. Oh my God, I don't have a picture of that. My bad. I had another picture of this, but they said the reflection of the Earth on the Roadster was something that really touched our hearts. And it is, I thought, it's kind of actually very interesting imagery if you think about it. You know, the humanity, the planet that we live on, is kind of reflects in this absolutely amazing technological advance of, you know, technology and space exploration in particular that we just created and seen, and how you can even say that, maybe some people even say that, you know, this Roadster, right, something that have one of the first electric cars made by Tesla, something that's really changing the world now with electric cars are taking over, will save that planet that was reflecting on the car. So I don't mean to get all, you know, philosophical on you guys, but I thought that was actually a pretty cool comment. I'm sorry I don't have the picture. Somehow it got lost in my stack here because I have so many things we got to talk about today, obviously. Let's see. Bill B in the chat room says, saw it from our backyard here in Florida. Looked great. I hear a lot of stories from people witnessing it themselves. I got to see one of the SpaceX launches here in California from Avila Beach, and I have to say that was absolutely unbelievable. I can only imagine how it felt for you guys just seeing this, and obviously that also must have been an amazing experience. When you don't have fear of failure, says Ben in the chat room, it is amazing what can be achieved. Yeah, usually it's true. I mean, again, not to get too philosophical, but since we're already here, yeah, usually fear is what stands from any person on his or her way to the road of success. I have to say that for sure. Alex, do you have information of the next commercial mission with Falcon Heavy, asks Bernd in the chat room. No, I don't think it's out there yet. I mean, obviously their next goal is to launch a bigger rocket with a bigger load there. I don't know, and obviously I mean, I'm going to assume that the percentage of failure is still going to be relatively high, but that's the next step. But don't forget, SpaceX does other things. I mean, they launch satellites, they test other things, so there will be other launches that will not have anything to do with Falcon Heavy particularly, but Falcon Heavy, next one is, you know, don't forget this was delayed many times, and this is pretty common, right? Even on that day they had to delay it because I think in the upper parts of the atmosphere the wind was too dangerous for the rocket to fly through it. So unfortunately I don't. Cordera Jones in the chat room says, one of my recommended videos states that the Roadster in space is fake because it should be melting from the sun rays. You know, Well, okay, just here's the thing. We can argue about all that stuff, except for there's now independent proof of astronomers seeing it in there. There are also, I think, the videos saying how come there are a bunch of stars flying around and asteroids flying around that you can see in the background, but you don't see the reflection on the hood. I don't really particularly understand that, but you know, I'm not an astrologist and I'm definitely not a physicist, so I don't really know why that's not the case. I'm sure there will be rebuttal, but and again, just because you see it behind it doesn't mean you can see it from the reflection, because also it depends where the light source is coming from, right? So if you can see asteroids, that means there's a light source behind you somewhere within the same area where you're at, but the ones that would reflect on the hood of the car, they need to have a source that's kind of coming from almost underneath the car, and if there is none, you won't see them, right? I mean, like, to me, that's just the most regular explanation of that. Did it look fake from your backyard, asks Ben of Bill, who witnessed this himself. Ryan Store Cowboy in the chat room says, why would the Roadster melt from the sun? It's extremely cold in space, even though the sun rays are not shielded as much from atmosphere. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know what the new updated trajectory of the path that Roadster are going to be flying through. So yeah, I don't really know. I don't know really what to say. I mean, obviously, if it was launched from Earth to Mars, which is further from the sun, it will be a little bit colder in there. And the question is what's going to happen when it kind of starts going around the sun, but I believe it will maintain at least that distance, so that should be fine. But for now, definitely, if you're flying away from the Earth to the sun now into asteroid belt, obviously it will be colder because you're further from the sun. Again, I'm always kind of wondering, because the explanations are so simple, I'm just wondering, is there more to this conspiracy theory, or is it just people throwing it all out there? Best guess as to when Tesla will reach 200,000 sales in the United States, asks Steven. I think most people are predicting in June, July, just because of the rate at which they're producing the Model S, Model X, which is pretty stable, but also at which they're going to be producing the Model 3, if their estimates, which we're going to talk in a little bit about that, if they're true. So we're talking about June, July. So, you know, and this is one of the problems that people are having about this Model 3 delays. Just like I said, just hold on for just 1 second. We'll talk about it. Is that, you know, the credit, the federal tax credit here in the United States is going to start fading away. Though the same people are upset that Tesla is going to be selling them in Canada, which won't affect the rebate count here in the United States. But yeah, I'd say about June, July is when we're going to see that. Roadster, not Roadster, damn it, Ryan Store Cowboy corrects me. Dude, there are some words that I just have problems saying, like Hyundai, for example. I think it's supposed to be pronounced as Hyundai or something like that. And no matter how many times I try, I can't. So you're just gonna have to bear with me and just know when I say Roadster, I mean Roadster. So my apology. English is a second language, as you remember. And there's a bunch of, like, when I was reporting about the revenues, about the net income, not even net income. See, I call them revenues. Yeah, I call them earnings instead of revenues. So I made a lot of mistakes this week. That was a tough week for me, but I correct myself every time. So when they were reporting the revenues, I said 2.3 billion instead of 3.2, as I was looking at that number myself, and I think it was Cook who corrected me, and a couple of others. Nothing goes unnoticed, which is cool. And that's why I love you guys. Gary in New York says would rather see 200,000 on July 1st, not June, obviously, because that will make the countdown, sort of the phase out countdown delayed by 3 months. Tesla Roadster, Alex Z suggests that I say. I can live with that. Let's see. 10 Trend says, sorry, my spelling isn't that perfect. Well, it's neither is my pronunciation here. We still love you. Alex says, Cook. Cook, you were very you were very particular about me getting that number correctly, and you know you made me feel like I got everything wrong in that report. I was like, oh my god, did I get all of them? How can I get it wrong? Because I usually look at 2 or 3 different reports at the very least, and I read the report myself, so I know I've you know my little dyslexia, I pronounced that that one wrong, but I was like, did I get anything else wrong? But anyway, so let's move on from my dyslexia, which I can't even pronounce, to be honest with you. Let's see. Okay, Jesus Christ is in the chat room, which is good to see, but I'm gonna have to delete that comment because please don't say, guys, no fighting and no slurs, obviously. Here you'll go very quick out of here. Sorry, just no tolerance on that. Tan asks, how can I afford a Tesla? Well, Tan, it depends on where you live. And from what I believe, aren't you a kid? I think you're a kid, right? Sorry if I'm confusing you with somebody else. But I actually have a bunch of videos on how you can afford a Tesla. And, you know, you have to still be within a reasonable range of how much money you make and what your expenses are. But really, that video is about like 10 things that you can do. And I'll switch to a Tesla image right here. 10 things that you can do to basically save money no matter what it is that you're saving it for. In my case, I was trying to show how you can save about $1,000 per month because that's what it costs to, you know, make payments, lease payments on a Tesla and pay for electricity and some of the other things like insurance that obviously always come. Yes, I'm a kid. Yeah, I believe you're 10 years old. So you can't afford a Tesla right now. Anyway, it depends where you live. But, you know, working hard is not always enough. Monkey Right obviously says that's always good advice no matter what. But because I believe a lot of people just don't know how to save, or they don't really aware that they can save or cut down their costs and stuff like that. So I have a video about that, how you can do that. Hopefully it helps, even if you're not saving for Tesla, if you're just looking to tighten up your budget or just save money for something else. I think that a lot of them are kind of proven myself that I use my own advice to do that and to afford a Tesla myself. I'm not a millionaire and I don't even make that big of a salary. I make a Silicon Valley average salary, and I'm able to afford 2 Teslas just because of the way I bought them, just because of the way I manage my finances. So it is something that definitely is up to you, but it's hard to get into your business, right? But you being 10 years old, I think you just need to work hard, make sure that you study in school well. That actually will directly affect your ability to be able to afford the Tesla. By the way, guys, if you want to experience this, which is being behind the wheel of a Tesla semi-truck, well, they are running a bit of a lottery, if you would. If you go to the description of this video, you use my referral link, which normally people use to buy a Tesla. In this case, all you have to do is sign up for their newsletter, and you will be entered into a drawing to have this experience at Tesla's design studio in Hawthorne, California. And I will also be a winner along with you, hopefully. They do it every week. I don't know what happened with last week's drawing because my app goes blank now in that section. But nevertheless, obviously I want to get there because I will create a full report about this, though I already have this report from the unveiling, which was awesome. But anyway, and I also, okay, so we'll move on to the whole Model 3 back and forth drama, as I call it. But at the same time, I also wanted to talk about the Q4 report, earnings report, which really kind of triggered this whole thing. Let's see, my girlfriend says hello to everybody in the chat room. She's watching from Mountain View. Tan says, wow, thank you, everyone is so friendly. This is a pretty cool community. I can't be more proud. This is why I love doing these. I love doing this live and interacting with you guys because I really love this community. I mean, lots of regulars and even people who are just coming in and watching for the first time are really cool and knowledgeable, and really my job here is to kind of transfer the information from you guys to the rest of the world this way. So by the way, before hey Tony, you're a little bit late, but we're glad to see you here as well. Do I know about the Fisker orbit? No, I don't, because this is the first time I see those two words together, says Hussein in the chat room. Gord Eisman, what's going on, man? Congratulations on your awesome live feeds on your channel as well. Oh, yes, of course. Tony reminds everybody about this, and I will actually even create the graphics for this, just to remind you guys, if you're enjoying this video, to put the thumbs up, because it makes this video do well after it's reposted and people watching in the replay, which actually 95% of you watch this in the replay. So thank you so much. Monkey Ride says, Alex, we saw your girlfriend one time. Bring her back. She's so funny. Well, I'm just afraid she's going to steal the show and I'll be out of job. Come on, man. This is about job security for me. I can't have her on all the time. So, yeah, actually, I was thinking about having her maybe do some of the behind-the-scene reporting for my Patreons. And if you're interested in being Patreon and supporting the show, the link is also in the description of this video. and I do behind-the-scenes footage and some of the exclusive reports. Just this week, I just posted some bloopers, really funny bloopers of me being interviewed by Nick Nimmin on his show, where we never got to the interview because we were laughing so hard. So I try to reward my Patreons as much as I can with some cool and fun footage. Justin asks why you two are still not married. That is a whole different show for the whole different channel, but we've been together for 7 years, so I think this is something that that's how we just decided this, for many reasons. But this is I'm telling you, man, you're getting me in trouble here. But maybe she'll explain it to you in the chat room if she has time. But you will still be the writer, even if your girlfriend steals the show, says Anton in the chat room. Probably, if she won't fire me after taking over the show. Okay, so let me go back to this whole Falcon Heavy launch and a Tesla Roadster before I move on to the earnings report. Because while you discuss my relationship in the chat room, and did I discuss the recent SEC filing yet? Asks Jesus Christ, which is always welcome in this chat room. Remind me what that was. What is the filing about? Maybe I'm blanking out. Did this happen this week? Because I'm discussing this week's happenings. Let's see. All right. So yeah. So earlier today, I saw my friend on Facebook posting that, and I've seen this post before. They were saying, well, you know, Elon Musk is a genius, but not because he launched the Tesla into space, and it's not because he created like the best car ever. It's really because he figured out how to get everybody else to pay for it. And I decided to reply because, you know, what can go wrong when you argue on Facebook with your friends, right? But I mean, I tend to have pretty respectful conversations because these are my friends. First of all, there's a good reason why they're my friends. If you would be somebody I couldn't even have a Facebook conversation with, you wouldn't be on my friend list anyway. Yes, Roundstone Cowboy says, I guess now that God even drives an electric vehicle. Absolutely. It looks like Jesus Christ is indeed in the chat room. So that's just the case in here. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I started, and you know, I've heard this before, and I think in my honest opinion, one of the most the most aggressive, one of the biggest participants in the comment section for most of my videos, he was also kind of claiming that, hey, you know, a lot of this is paid by taxpayers' money. And so, you know, I have a problem when people say that because it sounds like it was a charity, something like, you know, the taxpayers' money, taxpayers were, you know, in the United States and in some other countries that somebody just came over and just took their money and just gave it to Elon Musk, which is not the case. Although at the same time, technically, in some ways, yes, taxpayers' money were paid to some of the Elon Musk's company. But let's break it down really quick. First of all, when SpaceX, for example, provides service to a government, right, whether it launches a satellite or creates some launch that is something that NASA needed them to do or benefit from it, or some other government organizations, SpaceX as a company gets paid for services provided to NASA and other government agencies. So there's nothing wrong with your taxpayer money going exactly where your government wants them to go and getting something in return. So technically, yes, your taxpayer money are going there, but they are not being just charitably donated to the company. You're getting something for it, something that your government agrees that we need for, satellites, monitoring, and many other things. So that's one way, right? Secondly, people say, well, all this money is being given to Tesla in electric car incentives and tax rebates. Well, so when you say that, it again sounds like, people are just being taken from money is being taken from poor people and just given for all these rich people who buy these $100,000 cars. So, first of all, let's be very clear that the way the tax rebate on most countries, and specifically the United States, works is this. It is your own money that you paid in taxes during the year when you bought your own electric car that's going to be given back to you. Nobody else is sacrificing their money. It is your money that you overpaid, if you will, and it's only if you actually paid that $7,500. If you didn't have a job and didn't pay anything in taxes and you bought the car, you're not going to get that money because this can only be your money given back, first of all. Secondly, as you probably know, that this rebate is available to everybody. It is anybody who drives, buys an electric car or solar installation. So just because Tesla has decided to put a lot of energy and investment and took a lot of risk and ended up with a really good product and a lot of people buying it, that's not on Tesla. That's actually on other car manufacturers who are not taking advantage of this. And don't forget, our government still subsidize oil industry. We still subsidize a lot of things. We subsidize a lot of things overseas and pay off a lot of times very shady organizations to maintain the progress and the security that we need. I don't know why we're subsidizing oil still, but we are. So if you want to complain about taxpayer money ending up in the wrong, hands, electric cars really should be on the bottom of your list. Worry about the billions of dollars that were just lost in the Middle East when we shipped it there and we don't know where they are. Worry about the money that we subsidize oil companies with, oil companies that make like record revenues every year, more and more and more. So it's just kind of funny that people just specifically want to target that tiny little thing. And generally, governments are in charge of making sure that progress is supported. And electric car energy, green energy in general is progress. We kind of all agreed as pretty much the world at this point. And so that's why governments subsidize this, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I think they're not even doing that great of a job yet. I think Norwegian in Norway, they do a great job of it. Alex says, Jan, if people don't understand economics, they will still say this trolling. Well, I mean, I like, because I was talking to my friend and I thought he was receptive to, my opinion at least, because he was relying on an LA Times article that was obviously very biased against Tesla. That was very obvious as soon as I started reading it, just the choice of words and everything, which is fine. I mean, New York Times, LA Times, they always have their own agenda. So when you're reading their articles, you should definitely know that they have an agenda. And that's fine. I mean, there are still facts, right? I see you guys talking about the Q4, so I'll get to it in a second. Anyway, so exactly. And Coogan and Chatham says there are trillions of dollars being spent on lead versus a few hundred million, and yet people concentrate. But I'm just saying that even those few hundred millions are not being wasted and they're given to people. By the way, there was another argument that he had, and a lot of people had, is that, hey, when you buy a $100,000 car, you don't need you're too rich to receive the incentive, right? To receive the tax rebate. But the truth, and I think the counter argument to that is that actually, if you are so rich that you make all this money, you pay more in taxes than anybody around you, really, and you're like top 5 or 10% of people who are paying most of the taxes. So why wouldn't you be the first in line when those taxes are being returned to you, especially when it's your own taxes? So, I'm just saying that this is more of a conversation and there are different points of views, but I think it's a little bit irresponsible almost to claim that taxpayers' money are just being taken from poor people and just given to Elon Musk directly into his pocket. Now, for example, this Falcon Heavy mission, I believe this was pretty much SpaceX, a mission that they did themselves, because a lot of people are saying, well, why did he, put his Roadster in space rather than do something, else with it, or maybe put supplies to the International Space Station, which, just so you have to launch a completely different mission. But also, the possibility of it blowing up was pretty high. So you can't send anything that's worth anything big into space. Yes, you can still send some scientific experiments and stuff like that, and it could be a good point. But don't forget, this way Elon Musk literally paid with his own money, because it was his personal car, still is. I guess he still owns it. He donated it for this mission. And of course, listen, SpaceX is one of his babies, and he's gonna have another baby, which is Tesla, to benefit from this. I did this when I did the story. I titled it that this was one of the best PR stunts in Tesla's history, and probably in top 10 or top 25 in history in general for Tesla, because this Roadster now, this amazing images, a car driving through space were everywhere this week, still are, and there are all these kinds of interesting videos about it that are funny, that you can obviously see on YouTube and Facebook and so forth. Peter says tax rebates is still taxpayer money, not your money, but it certainly doesn't go to Tesla. It's taxpayers' money going to individuals who buy an electric car. People just buy Tesla because they're the best. Well, I disagree with the first part, Peter, because it says tax rebate is still taxpayer money. Well, it's only one taxpayer's money, yours. Don't forget, the way it works is it's the money that you already paid or supposed to pay to the government in taxes that is simply being given back to you. No one else contributes to that $7,500 except for you. You just end up being if you will, in a lower tax bracket as a benefit of buying an electric car that year. And again, the reason for that is because it's government's job to make sure that we support the progress. And to be honest with you, a lot of cities, they kind of need this because the smoke is so bad, the quality of air is so bad. That's why China is really behind this, that you really need this for health reasons, really. So the government is willing to not collect as much taxes from that individual who says, I will contribute to cleaner air, to the progress, and to the clean energy. And again, we can always say that, hey, look at why we're subsidizing the oil industry. It's, is there a reason? Smooth Operator in the chat room says, Alex, the thinking of many other, they believe Tesla will be the only car company in the world. They think other manufacturers won't exist and only Tesla will be around. Well, I mean, that's nice, but that's not the case. Anybody who makes cars can, and if they make electric cars, then they will benefit from this, right? So it's really kind of almost a choice, especially of car makers who have enough money to be able to have an electric car program, to be able to benefit from this. And by the way, a lot of this money, people are claiming that, well, one of the other ways how Tesla benefits from the taxpayer money is the selling of the ZEV credits. Well, those have nothing to do with taxpayers' money, because that's actually one car manufacturer paying their money to buy ZEV credits from Tesla because they haven't made enough of electric cars or haven't sold them because maybe they don't make them because they don't know that's good. But that's money exchange between two businesses that have nothing to do with taxpayers' money. And that's why I also have a problem people claiming that this is taxpayers' money. Cook says General Motors, he calls them government motors, got billions and did not pay back all of it. Tesla paid back their entire loan with interest of over $20 million. Tesla indeed repaid their loan, and government made money on this. I think that's another thing that people don't realize, that, we bailed the entire car industry. Nobody had a problem with that. But then Tesla comes in, and by the way, we bailed them because they sucked at making cars. Let's be very, very clear. I think that most of them still do, but at that time, definitely. So we bailed them out. But then Tesla comes along, produces amazing cars that are also environmental friendly, and everybody goes like, no, not them. With our money, how dare you? I think there's a little bit of a not a little bit, a lot of hypocrisy there. So that's this is why I always kind of get really riled up about this, because this is just, the issues are never that simple here. They're complicated. And if you don't have a lot of facts, how can you really have an opinion on this that's educated and smart? And that's why I try to bring as much of this as possible towards the front. And people can challenge me anytime. I mean, I'm ready to have that conversation and be maybe educated myself. But from everything that I know and I've learned, that this is actually something that is not that big of a deal. As a matter of fact, I think it's very much necessary. And you're right. You know, Tesla has repaid their loans and government made money on it. Tesla made money for the taxpayers, so we don't maybe have to pay as much in taxes as otherwise we would have had to. REP, oh my God, I see Russians. Okay, I saw the word Russians there. I was like, oh, are we going into the wrong direction here with this conversation? Up until now, we have been paying the Russians for space travel, even saving us a lot of money, and it's providing space travel for a much cost. Yeah, I believe we did pay some of the Russian space program because we didn't really have NASA doing much, so we needed to cooperate with them, which is okay. But I'm just saying, and you're right, to the bigger point is that, you know, the government needs to spend money to do what it needs to do, including space exploration, including launching satellites, including monitoring a lot of things that are happening on the planet, including spying on other countries, because that's part of their job too. Ryan says, I want my government that spends my tax dollars to stop subsidizing oil. Then people realize more of the cost of oil, then electric subsidies won't even be needed. True, I have nothing to add to that actually. Pass the savings back to the taxpayers so they can afford to buy electric without incentives. Oh, by the way, you know, I wasn't going to get to this story until later in the show, but, you know, Hong Kong is actually, and this is not exactly helping our argument here, but Hong Kong, Tesla's been actually laying off some employees from what I understand there, and kind of shrinking a little bit, because in Hong Kong they stopped doing subsidies and they stopped doing tax rebates and incentives for electric cars, and the sales dropped drastically. And you know, that law was kind of helped by, you probably can guess who, but this is kind of a little bit concerning, because, you know, I thought that a lot of, especially people who buy Teslas for $70,000 to $140,000 are not really going to be, you know, out of the running, if you will, if you take the extra, you know, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 away from the price. But in Hong Kong, it's proving to actually backfire, and it's really, it doesn't look good. So I don't know if the incentives can be taken away. Of course, we're going to see what happens once Tesla loses that incentive later this year, what's going to happen with Model X, Model S, and most importantly, Model 3. I do believe that even without incentives at $35,000, Model 3 is still the best car for that price. So I think it should be okay, but we will see. REP says, for decades, our money has been going to the oil industry and to the Middle East for our transportation. Elon is changing the game in allowing us to fuel cars with electric. Actually, that's one of the reasons I bought my first Tesla. I believe that was supporting basically, I was supporting our country and other countries not having to be involved in the Middle East, which results in a lot of death on both sides. And I thought that not having to be dependent on oil, where we have to, you know, either damage our own environment by exploring it or having interests in other countries that don't really want us there, I thought it was definitely contributing to the planet and to this humanity. Just my little donation. You guys are talking about the Prius in the chat room, which I'm not even going to get involved in. If we taxed gas and diesel companies for all the damage they're doing to the planet and our health, they would all be out of business a long time ago, says Coog, and I agree with him. Do you have a Model 3, asks Stan? No, you know what? I opted out not to get it. I think I was able to, if I wanted to, I would have had it in the beginning of January, from what I understand. And, you know, I have two Tesla Model S. I think Model 3 is a revolutionary product, but because I can still afford a Model S, I think I'm going to continue driving it. My leases don't expire until fall of this year, so it's not really an option for me. My girlfriend, who is, I think, still in the chat room, may consider Model 3, but even she's saying that if we can, you know, if she can afford the Model S, she'd rather continue driving that as well. Because, you know, people don't always realize that Model 3 is not a better version of all Teslas. It's actually a relatively big step down from the Model S. It's just very affordable, and it's really, really great bang for your buck. So that's why I really support it. You've got sound problems, says Justin. Let me know. Everything looks pretty green here where I'm watching it from. Let me know if you guys are having, if you're hearing me okay, because I'm not in my little dashboard here. I'm not seeing any problems. What Tesla do you have? Asks Stan. So I have 2 Teslas. So me and my girlfriend, we have one black Tesla Model S 70D with Autopilot, and another one is a white Tesla regular 60, also with Autopilot, both 1.0. They're 2015 versions. How can I vote for you? Asks Spen. But I think it's a question for Jesus Christ in the chat room, which is still here, which is great. REP says, in regards to the tax to the oil industry for the damage, yes. This is why Elon has been talking about a carbon tax. Things should have the consequence cost to go with it. Let's see. Oh, the sound cut out briefly, says my girlfriend, but it looks like it's back up. You know, this is actually, I had a problem a couple of days ago. I think the video went out for like 5 seconds. Unfortunately, this is nothing that I can control. I'm looking here. My health of my stream is good. As far as I'm seeing here in my software, and also the stream health is good for my dashboard on YouTube. But you guys definitely let me know if there's anything that's going wrong, and can try to reset it, though I'm not really sure what I would be able to do. What a Tesla Model S60, do they still have the 60 for the Model? No. So first of all, you cannot buy a rear wheel drive anymore. You can only buy dual, and you can only buy it in 2 different versions, 75D and 100D. That 60 was available in the beginning of 2015, so we grabbed it because it also had an Autopilot. That was a pretty rare combination. And I will probably even keep it for an extra 6 months. I'll probably extend my lease because we got a really good deal on that. And that's why probably Model 3 is not really in our future. All right, guys, why don't we move on? And before that, of course, we're going to talk about the Q4 earnings in just a second. But let me remind you that this stream and this channel is sponsored by our friends at Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. I have quite a few of those all installed on my Tesla, and if you want to enjoy it, if you're thinking about making a purchase there, you can also look in the description of this video, and they've provided a discount code specifically for our community, which we appreciate, and that way you can save a few bucks on your purchase. All right, let's see. REP says, as I understood, the 60 was really 75, which was software limited, and the couple could be upgraded. So yes, some of the regular 60 cars were 75, and you can unlock the extra 15 kilowatt hours. But in our case, no, our 60 is really 60. There's nothing to unlock there. The other benefit for that was you could charge that battery 100%, and it still wouldn't damage the battery as much as if you would charge a regular battery 100%, because the 100% wasn't really the 100% of the entire battery that you had. So that was also a big plus. And you remember when there was hurricanes in Florida, Tesla unlocked that feature for all of its cars, that they were able to do it remotely, so those people who could get away from the hurricane with an extra mileage on their cars. And I think then they brought it back a couple of weeks later. So that was also really cool of Tesla to do. Broman says carbon tax is BS. Tesla gets free carbon credits, whatever that even means, then sell into other manufacturers who don't care to improve their footprint, and free money for some unknown entity. Yeah, you know, to be honest with you, a carbon tax is actually also a complicated issue that, you know, we can argue that, listen, we do need oil. We still have a lot of stuff that operates on oil, almost everything, including Falcon Heavy, believe it or not. It was an electric vehicle. You know, we still have to, you know, make sure that we have plenty of it, and it's cheap enough for businesses to operate, for us to be able to afford it, and so forth. So I won't go further than that. I'll just leave it at that, and I appreciate the conversation, guys. All right, let's move on to Q4 report. So to be honest with you, if it wasn't for Falcon Heavy, this would be the news of the week, right? Because it really affected a lot of Model 3 drama. I call it drama because really it's if you look at the reaction that the community had to this, and how Tesla handled it, it's been a little dramatic, I have to say. So Q4 report itself wasn't that bad, actually. The earnings, the loss per share wasn't as big as they predicted, though not like shockingly small. It was very close, and the you know, I call them earnings, but it's really the income. I lost the word, but anyway, so 3.2 billion in revenues. That's the word that escaped my mind already twice now. Revenues, that's what Tesla earned, and it was just a little bit more than it was expected, also just by a very little. Tesla lost record number of money last year, but also earned a record amount of money last year as well. A lot of people are giving him a hard time, saying, you know, all they do is lose money. I mean, we've talked about it. And you know, I still support this strategy because they took a bunch of money and invested it into something that's going to be giving them a lot of revenues, you know, in years to come in the Model 3. This is just how it's done. They have no problems raising money. Obviously, they just raised they're just about to raise, or I don't know if they've already pulled the trigger on this, $500 million in securities that are backed by their Model S and Model X leases, and that was like oversubscribed by 14 times, so they could have raised way more if they wanted to. All right, now I'm seeing my stream being a little bit okay. It's back to normal. Let's see. Someone says there was something about me drinking, so that's why I was all right, I lost that. Sorry, guys. Somebody will say, are you drinking because you're getting blurry? And let me know again if there's any issues with the stream, but this has been up and down, I think. But overall, let me know, guys, if you're receiving a relatively decent stream. Type yes in the chat room, and if you are, and no if you're not. And while you're at it, just another reminder, if you guys don't mind, if you're enjoying the stream, giving it a thumbs up. That always helps this video to do well out there while people are watching it the replay. Have you Tesla P85D asks, which really should be called now Tesla 100D, because you got a brand new one. Congratulations once again. Have you heard anything about Model S 2018-2019 update? Yes, a lot of people are talking about how they expected this year, but to be honest with you, there's no official word from Tesla that they're going to update the interior on the car or exterior. I'm assuming their minds are somewhere else, though I'm also assuming they're working on it. So I don't know if I would expect it this year. Maybe next year, because it's kind of due, but still, there's no word on it right now. All right, so Q4 earnings report was all right. It's hard to determine what happened with the stock because, as you guys know, our stock market here is just took a humongous dive here in the United States. We had a day with a record losses for both Dow Jones and S&P 500. So it's really hard to see which part of it was dragged down by the news, which part of it was dragged down by the stock market in general. Because before that, the stock was kind of up after the news. So I really can't comment on the stock because it's really may not be the real reflection of what the earnings report said. Let's see. Craig says, talk about the self-driving update. This is one of the things that I was also going to cover. There's a lot of things that that Elon mentioned that we're going to go over right now. But yeah, one of them is that he said that the Autopilot update is in its final stages of testing, that there's a lot of features that are coming up. Obviously, they're trying to get it much better. During the conference call with investors, he addressed the fact that they promised to have a coast-to-coast trip in the previous year. That never happened. He kind of said that, listen, we could have done it. We would have just, you know, had to custom code the route, and it really wouldn't be a reflection of what the car can really do around the country and other areas. Which is, you know, I mean, you can call it an excuse, but that nevertheless, it hasn't happened. They're saying that they still planning to do it this year. I believe that he said. You know, we'll see what happens, but a lot of people are definitely waiting on this update. I believe it's going to go through Model S, Model X first, and then Model 3 afterwards. But again, he tweeted a bunch of things that we should expect from it back in January. None of them were really that huge. I think biggest thing is that can they catch up the AP 2.5 to AP 1 first of all, like once and for all? And I think that, I mean, I can't imagine that wouldn't be part of it. But can they really go even further? Can they do a lot of other new things that we've expected rather than just kind of fixing things that are still missing or features that people just kind of said, hey, dude, we kind of need this feature. I can't believe it's still not there. So we'll see. He was pretty he was pretty vague on that. So I'm not really sure if there's anything else I can tell you guys except for it's coming. It's in the final stages of testing, and it's going to be much better than it is right now. Tesla would not say anything prematurely about a refresh, says REP in the chat room, because sales would freeze until the updated cars were available. Absolutely. And to be honest with you, Tesla never says anything about what they're planning to do, because, you know, they update cars all the time, whether it's look or feature or something inside. They change it like 1,000 times a year, and it's never announced. It's like, boom, we figured out how to do it better, and now we're making it. So I kind of wouldn't expect that from them as far as the refresh is concerned. Though I have to say, all other companies announced that they're going to have a new look for the car. Nissan Leaf is a good example, and then they lose sales because people wait for it until the next year. But you know, that looks like it doesn't bother most of the car makers. Automakers like Toyota refresh every 3 to 4 years. The last Tesla refresh was not even 2 years ago. I don't see it's due for a while. Says Porsche Boy. Porsche Boy, I think we're talking about the refresh on the inside of the car, because that, you know, it's got minor updates here and there. Especially the biggest update was the center console, but really didn't have a big update. Somebody literally, Howard, one of my viewers, emailed me a few times last night about this Russian Tesla vlogger that found somebody who spent like $30,000 to retrofit a Tesla Model S, the inside, into something that looks more like a BMW 7 Series or Mercedes S-Class. And I watched this video and I thought that was, one, not worth the money, but two, there's really not much that you can do except for, once again, put a nice center console, maybe upgrade some trim here and there. But overall, I think if there's a refresh, it kind of needs to be done with the overall design. Though I'm not really sure what you can do about the center console being a flat screen, humongous monitor, which everybody loves, right? What percentage of Tesla buyers do actually buy Autopilot, asks Jesus Christ. Well, Jesus Christ, I don't have a number, but I think everybody who can afford it does. And I have to say, I have regrets. I have both of my cars. And to be honest with you, once because I bought it, and after that they've updated the software where you absolutely have to have your hands on the wheel at all times, and that kind of killed it for me, because if I have to keep my hands on the wheel, then I'd rather just not have an Autopilot. I use it mainly for parking, to be honest with you, and that's pretty much it for now. So next time, if I'm buying a Model S or my next Tesla, and there's no major updates to the software for the Autopilot, I will probably skip that feature. Let's see. What do people want to see on an inside refresh? Porsche Boy asks. Well, people believe it's done cheap, and I think some of it comes from some materials are being kind of cheap and wobbly. If you have a panoramic roof, you know, that beam, you know, you can literally like wiggle it around in your hands and it feels a little cheap in the plastic. So that's, even I notice. Some people don't like the trimming. I think it's fine, but I think just overall luxury look, right? Maybe have some of the leather trim or I mean, it's designed minimalistically, but some people confuse it or believe that it's cheap. They just want more stuff. They want it to look more luxurious. That's what the demand is. I'm not necessarily agreeing. I'm okay with a minimalistic look, but that's what people are asking as far as the refresh is concerned. With the new battery chemistry in the Roadster, asks Monkey Rider, or states, you've got to wonder whether there will be massive battery improvement on the S and Model X. I guess that's $1 million question, or $1 billion question, really. What are they going... How far along that technology that they introduced last year in a new Roadster in a semi-truck, how far along it is, and are they going to actually implement it into the Model X, and then of course the Model 3? We don't know. That would be cool. I mean, the upgrade for the range is kind of due. If anything that's due is an upgrade on the range. Remember, we started with 85 kilowatt-hour battery in the beginning, and 5 years later we're only up to 100 now. So it's kind of due, right? Or at least the efficiency of the battery, it's gotten better, obviously, but I think it is due that it's something else is going to happen in the next year or two. I would be surprised if it didn't. Let's see. Ari says, sorry, my second mention about the update and people abusing it. It was referring to the Autopilot. He's doing it in a secret maybe and just wants to put it out when it is complete. Well, that's what I think what testing is about, if I understand your comment correctly, Ari. And yes, some people abuse it, but you know, people abuse stuff all the time. People abuse cars all the time by, you know, texting and driving and not paying attention and running and, you know, hurting other people. We don't take cars away from them, right? There are penalties for abusing it and getting in trouble. So I'm not really sure why the same was true for Autopilot. I mean, it's very clear that they're saying it's an assistant. You need to pay attention. But I felt that, you know, having us keep, and again, listen, say what you want. I'm just saying, as a consumer, if I'm paying for Autopilot, I don't need to put my hands on the wheel every 3 seconds. And to me, as a consumer, again, this is my personal opinion, I just want to pay for it. I might understand why it's done. I might understand that's maybe safer. I don't know if it is, but let's say if it is, I'm just not willing to pay for the product right now, especially, you know, what is it, $5,000? Just not. Again, personal opinion here. Let's see, like I said yesterday, no matter how much you hate gas cars, if your car set in the winter, you wouldn't lose 50% of range from weather. I think Bromance is talking to somebody else there. Rather than making incremental updates, says Ari, and releasing them every time, if the self-driving is complete, you cannot abuse it. It can self-drive anyway and should not fail. Well, I mean, don't forget there are levels of self-driving, right? We're between 2 and 3 for Tesla, right? Okay, let's say 3. You know, next level would be probably between 3 and 4. So you can't really jump all the way there, I think. I guess you can, but there's a lot of also regulations, government regulations to clear in different countries. So I'm not really sure if that's really how it's going to work. Alex, you live in California, just pick up an orange, says Jonathan J. That's funny because there was a YouTube video out there where the guy just put an orange into the wheel to fool the system, and a lot of people went like, oh, this is horrible, you're responsible, and somehow these people forgot that that feature was already in there for a while, made by Tesla, where you didn't have to put an orange. It just didn't require you to put a hands on the wheel every 3 seconds. So that was out there for a while. And then one guy uses this and kills himself, and we all have to suffer. Just like when we take shoes off of our feet at the when we want to fly. It's just like one guy screws it up for everybody. Let's see. Okay, so let's move on to really what happened after Q4 report was done, and this is like literally almost immediately after that. A bunch of us and pretty much everybody else got emails how their car in the United States, the Model 3 reservations and deliveries are going to be delayed. And their configurator also got an update. And so here's what happened. So back in January, and this is where people just went crazy, and I think there's some. I understand why people are frustrated. I mean, I've been frustrated for a while. It's not about the delays. It's about how they present it to us. So, for example, so this is a good example. And this is why a lot of people are upset. You know, Tesla said back in January that they've produced a new schedule. That they said that the $35,000 version, the standard battery, instead of being available probably at the end of summer, they said it's now going to be available in the beginning of 2018, which kind of meant, well, any day now, guys, in the next month or two. So everybody got really excited, right? Well, now they said, guess what? Not only it's not going to be at the end of the summer, definitely not going to be now. It's going to be by the end of the year, right? Late 2018. And by the way, people ask, well, you're having problems with production. And they were like, oh, no problems with production. Production is basically on track. So people were like, well, first of all, this is the 4th time you're changing it on us, so 5th. And secondly, if the production is on track for 2,500 cars per week at the end of Q1 and 5,000 per week at the end of Q2. If your previous estimate was based on this production rate and the production rate stayed, why is your estimate is now being pushed to the end of the year? Now, there are many answers to that. None of them are people are happy about, except for people in Canada, because see, in Canada, what happens is they actually moved it up. They moved the deliveries, promised deliveries up, saying that they're going to be delivering the current configuration, the long range to Canadians earlier, which a lot of people said, okay, damn it, you know, they're making this expensive Model 3s that, you know, a lot of people can afford or really didn't want to pay for, and now they're going to be selling in Canada instead of producing a cheaper version for us here in the United States, as we expected. But at the same time, you guys have to understand, because, you know, this is a business, right? They want to sell the most expensive cars right now because the margins are big on them. The biggest, obviously, because they're trying to make the money back. That's what happened with the Model S. That's what happened with the Model X. I don't know why it would be any different with the Model 3, especially now when, you know, people are really, you know, they know that Tesla really needs to make that money back. So yeah, they will sell it to anybody, anywhere, to make that margin before they're going to start making the cheap version for you. Now, that makes sense, okay? Ari in a chat room says Canada sales do not go towards the credit phase out. Correct. So a lot of people are saying, well, you know, now I won't be able to get the credit or even a partial credit for the tax purposes. And it's true. If you sell it in Canada and the rest of the world, it doesn't count against that 200,000 car cap that they need to meet before it starts getting phased out. But what's true is they're going to continue selling Model S, Model X, and quite a few Model 3s, and that will push people for, you know, further and further out as far as their ability to get that credit. So even though it doesn't count towards the Canadian sales don't count towards the credit phase out, it still gets people much further away from collecting that credit, even partially. Let's see. All right, so that's where disappointed is right now, right? That they've promised something, that they change it again, and now they're pushing it back and back and back. And this is the first time I saw people posting saying, you know what, I've canceled my reservation. And, you know, some people say, well, that's kind of stupid because you already waited for it. And even if you don't want to get it right now, you know, you can keep it in another year or even 2. You can buy this car without really waiting because you will be in queue, you'll be on hold, and you can get it any time. But I've never seen this big of a backlash before for the Model 3 reservation holders. I've never seen so many people canceling, so many people being really unhappy about it, and so many people saying, well, I'd rather buy something else than a Tesla just overall because I'm tired of the drama. And that's why I'm calling it drama. If you understand this, if production is faster after Canada, more people here will get the credit. Yes, except for by that time, I mean, we're very close to 200,000, right? There's another maybe 4 months or so, because they are selling Model S and Model X. So even if they go and sell in Canada, come back, start selling more, they've already sold quite a few of Model S and Model X that just keep taking those credits instead of those people who thought they would be able to use them for the Model 3. So that's still a problem regardless of that. Let's see. All right, you guys are talking between each other. Okay, so I got offline for just 1 second. And I don't know if I got back online. Alex, do the investors and Elon care about the people getting tax credit? I don't know if they care about it just because, you know, their job is to do right by the investors and also means by customers. But you know, the line is just too long for the Model 3. They know that they will get through it, and sooner or later they're going to have to deal with a problem or whatever challenge of selling these cars at $35,000 without and more without the tax credit. So this whole tax credit to them is very temporary problem. You know, whether or not they're going to sell extra 20, 30,000 Model 3s versus Model S's with the credit, they really probably don't care. They know that really by the end of this year, they're going to have to sell these cars at the full price. And, you know, so I think they really don't care as much because I know that's pretty much over. Why cancel? Why not sell your reservation? Asks Jesus Christ. Well, first of all, you cannot sell your reservation. You can transfer. This is just for a person who reserved it. Actually, if I wanted to transfer it to my girlfriend, I probably couldn't. Now, somebody told me about a hack, how to do it. I haven't checked here. I should probably, but I guess you can. What you can do is you can make an agreement, obviously private contract, that you will buy that car together with another person, register this car together so your name will be on it as well. And Tesla does allow a second person to be on it because it could be your wife or whatever. And then you can just simply go to DMV and remove your name and keep that other person's name. So therefore, you kind of had that person buy the car for you. don't quote me on this because somebody told me that literally at the party and they were tipsy. It does sound right, but you might want to check with your DMV or whatever the organization that oversees the car sales in your area. But I believe that's a workaround. In Canada, so Sporty Boy, Model 3 will have a different configuration as we have slightly different regulations. That's true. That's true for pretty much every country. So perhaps Tesla is testing out production line changes for sales outside US. Could be. I still think that the most logical explanation is that they're selling it there because that market is ready to buy. Like maybe they're exhausting the market here in the United States of people who are willing to pay the top money for the longest range with the premium package of the Model 3, where in Canada, the demand for that is actually very high as well, and their incentives are still in place, and they're just able to sell those cars in Canada because of that. So I think that makes more sense because they just want to sell the most expensive Model 3 configurations to as many people as they can at first, and then go down and start selling 35,000 configurations and with the lower margins. And again, that's understandable. I think what people are really upset about is the fact that there's just a lot of flip-flopping, and a lot of times people make plans. You know, some people's leases expire. Some people kind of know that they have to get rid of their cars and buy something else. They make plans. They try to save money, and this really screws with people's plans and savings, right? So that's the problem. RE says, so not only does Tesla have the only widespread monitored and service charging network, but also over-the-air updates. Yeah, charging network is by far the biggest advantage for Tesla, no doubt about it. And yes, you're right. I think over-the-air updates are absolutely amazing because your car gets better with time, which no other car does. Let's see. Alex, have you proposed? Are you guys talking about my relationship again? I'm going to leave it up to you guys to talk about it because my girlfriend's still in the chat room. Let's see. No, but I have not proposed because we are not planning on getting married. So that would be kind of weird to do. Something that we just both agreed on. I mean, you guys, I know you guys watch from I can't believe I'm talking about this, but okay. I know you're watching from different parts of the world with different cultures, different, I have to say here in California, things are just, a marriage is just not what a lot of people around the world believe marriage is there, right? Here, marriage is really not, it's really not what it really used to be. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of statistics that couples who are married don't stay together as long as couples who are not married and so forth. So for us, this is just a personal decision. I think what's important for us is to, stay together and have a happy relationship rather than what's on paper. We don't have children, so that's really doesn't really bring any kind of complications on that. There's California law that regulates marriages in a crazy way here, and we just want to stay away from that as well. So that's as much as I'm going to share with you guys because I think that's already probably TMI, but that's just how it is. Ari says that it's okay. My girlfriend and I will not get married either. It is just a piece of paper that is governing thing. If you're in a committed, then you're in a commitment. So if you're in a commitment, then you're in a commitment. I agree. And again, I can't really even, because I'm not preaching here, right? I'm just saying that what works for us is this, worked for 7 years. We both agree on this. I think that's just how most couples operate. And for some people, marriage is absolutely must and absolutely right thing to do within different locations and cultures. It's just not for us here in this time, in this place in California. So now we're talking about marriage, as Jesus Christ. I know. Let's get back to cars, electric cars. All right. So the delays with the Model 3, that's what we're talking about. Canadian deliveries. Okay. Model 3 clarification is something that Tesla doesn't usually do very often. They don't usually clarify their own statements from only a couple of days ago, but I guess they had to clarify on this one point is that they were saying is that originally they said they were talking about this assembly line for the Model 3 battery that's in Germany, that they're going to disassemble, move here to the United States and assemble it again so they can start functioning right away. And they said they're going to do it by the end of March. Well, don't forget, by the end of March that's where they promised that the 2,500 car per week production is going to start. So everybody said, whoa, wait a second. Are you saying that that's what we're relying on, that line being transferred from Germany? That's what you guys are relying on? Because that's a bit of a problem. I know it's disassemble, move, assemble, But everybody knows that assembling in a new facility, the transfer, I mean, things can go wrong. So Tesla had to clarify, say, no, we can reach this 2,500 cars per week production without this assembly. That one is to ramp it up to 5,000 per week by the end of June. So they just wanted to clarify it because people were started kind of just gonna get crazy over it. Alex, do you think the piece of equipment is to make the existing line faster, or is it start a new line of the battery pack? I believe, Monkey, right? It's to start, it's a separate line to do the battery pack that they're right now doing in Germany, and now they're going to transfer it to, I believe, the Gigafactory in Nevada. Let's see. It's kind of a testament of how advanced the German car industry is. A German company fixing the battery module issue, says a curious San. Well, if they were that advanced, why wouldn't they make the best electric cars or even best cars in the world, which right now they are not? You can just go to any BMW dealership and look inside of the car, and I dare you to point to a technology that's not at least 5 years old, or most likely 10. So I disagree with you on that, but most importantly, this is the reason it's in Germany is because Tesla owns the company that used to be Grumman Engineering. That's kind of a company that makes robots to make robots, and that's why it's in Germany. They have their own, stuff there, and they just believe that it would be more efficient for them to move that equipment to the Gigafactory. So they're not really fixing anything. This is where Tesla originally did this because it's part of their company, their global company. How is Autopilot in the snow, asks Ben. I haven't heard any complaints, though I'm assuming not as good because, it relies on seeing lanes. And I just remember being in Russia, you don't see lanes a lot of times when it's snowing. And obviously visibility is not as good. So my answer is probably not as good, but I don't have a first-hand experience. For those of you guys who do have a Tesla with Autopilot in the chat room or in the comment section, please go ahead and educate us, because I just don't know. I just don't know the answer to that. Lots of snow to navigate here, says Peachy Boy. I'm assuming you're talking about Canada. Model 3 dual motor is a must. Here, that's along with butt warmers. I'm assuming that dual motor is a little more important than butt warmers, but yes, I hear you, and absolutely. And this is what a lot of Canadians I hear from Canada is that they absolutely must have the. And from northern states like Michigan and New York here in the United States, that they need that feature, not just because they want all-wheel drive for just poops and giggles. Really, they really need it for safety reasons because of the snow and a lot of rain and so forth. So I totally understand. Craig says, Alex, my second part to my question: why would they move up all-wheel drive for Canada mid 2018 versus if I wanted all-wheel drive delayed to end of 2018? Okay, you're gonna have to ask the question again. I'm assuming you're wondering why they moved the deliveries up in Canada and delayed them in the United States. If that's the question, then the answer is that because they decided that they want to continue selling the most expensive version. Canada is a next market anyway to expand to, but also they have very strong reservations there for that configuration. So they just want to continue selling the cars at the best margin, which they really need to recoup a lot of their major investments that they've done for the Model 3 production extravaganza and production hell, if you will. I'm just gotta drink some water. Tesla P85D says Model 3 delivery was pushed to 2019 in Lithuania for me, so it was a reason to cancel Model 3 and buy a Model S. Yeah, if you bought a Model S instead of Model 3, then it kind of makes sense, so I understand. Varun says, Alex, now you know. He's referring to a channel with Zach and Jesse, which I've did a couple of collabs and met them in person. They're awesome. They've tested the Model 3 in the snow extensively. So, yeah, I didn't get to watch that video just yet, but that's probably a good one to start with if you want to know the answer to that. Their channel is called Now You Know. Let's see. Thanks, Canada, for helping Tesla get snow ready before shipping to Sweden, says Anton. Well, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Absolutely. That's a great way of looking at it, actually. I just thought of that another reason for Canada, says REP in the chat room, is that with colder weather, more people want the longer range batteries so they can take more time on the actually, you're right. That is another reason, because obviously batteries don't perform as well in the cold. So in Canada, in any cold country like Sweden, where Anton is, it does make sense to have a bigger battery. Your water bottle interfered with a signal. That's kind of weird. Did it? Let's see. Did it? Because really, my microphone is right here, to be honest with you. And I don't know how it did that. Well, let me know. But I got to drink a little bit, guys, because my voice is just, is going to go again. If just Tesla could build an interior like in the new Mercedes A-Class, says Curious San. I'm assuming you're referring to the video that Dan of What's Inside Family just did, which is, you're right, Mercedes A-Class was just unveiled in Netherlands, I believe, and it looks pretty good for a relatively cheap car. It looks pretty good. In general, I think Mercedes is the leader in, kind of a classy luxury interior. So I agree. And a lot of people do wish that would happen. This is why I like Lucid Motors, the Lucid Air interior, because I believe it, even though they're far away from the production, I really, really like their interior. I have a whole video of me checking out their prototype inside and out. If you're interested to see, definitely, definitely check it out on my channel. Just search for it, Lucid Air. Model Y, there was a Model Y update from Elon, because people are obviously getting a little anxious about it, and with Kia and Hyundai also producing their electric SUVs this year with a pretty decent range of 238 and 250 miles. He said that in about 3 to 6 months. He didn't say they're going to unveil it. They're going to say they're going to announce the production plans. Now, there was a rumor last month that they are already talking to the suppliers and even sharing some images of some parts that they're going to need for Model Y, which is, no surprise. But now he's saying that they will have a production update within the next 3 to 6 months. Now, I'm assuming it's going to be about where this car is going to be made, because, as you know, Fremont factory is completely full. You cannot really even make a cell phones there. I mean, it's really just that full. They're going to have to use a different factory, which a lot of people say they're either going to build half battery, half production company in Europe or China, probably in Europe, or they're actually going to use part of the Gigafactory in Nevada, maybe even, because that one is not taking the entire space just yet. Then asks, why can the Tesla Model 3 have the white seats for the inside? Well, because they're just not making them. It will have it. It's just they cannot roll out all of the features at the same time. But it is probably, third most requested feature for the Model 3, because after the dual motor and obviously the standard battery pack. Let's see. I love the look of Lucid Air, says Tesla P85D. I absolutely do. I like Tesla's look better than the Lucid Air, but the inside I like Lucid Air better, I have to say. Let's see. Canada should just wait for the global warming hit hard, says Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm gonna let that one go. Not talking about climate change this time around. I've learned my lesson last time. All right, so yeah, so that's the update for Model Y. There was also an interesting thing that Elon said about the semi-truck, which I kind of have a problem with, because not so much. Listen, semi-truck is already doing very well. Okay, we know that the orders are coming in. There was also news that they are discussing installing mega chargers at the location of their biggest current clients, which I believe is PepsiCo, UPS, and Anheuser-Busch, I have problems pronouncing that name, basically Budweiser, and they're discussing installing mega chargers at their delivery and distribution centers, which I think makes all sense in the world, because obviously those trucks really cannot afford sitting at mega chargers. They probably want to be mega charged, whatever the new term is going to be, while they're being loaded or unloaded or serviced at their distribution centers and delivery centers. So that looks like that's what Tesla is doing. So, Tesla Semi is doing very well in the news. There's no reason to throw more milestones and promises anyone's way. I don't think there was a need for it, but nevertheless, Elon did it anyway. He said that in 4 years, they're planning on making and selling 100,000 semi-trucks per year. Now, just as a reference, even the largest semi-truck producers are making a little over that, but that's a very, I mean, it's a very ambitious number, and they can probably sell them if this truck is really a hit, if they can expand fast enough. They still need to produce Model Y, they still need to produce a pickup truck, they still need to produce a second generation Roadster. So why put pressure on yourself? I mean, why come out and give you yet another estimation, another promise during the time when you're having a hard time keeping your current promises? I just didn't think it was kind of unnecessary for him to talk about it, but nevertheless, he said they're targeting 100,000 semi-trucks per year. That's that. By the way, for those of you guys who are just coming in and just happen to enjoy the stream, please hit that thumbs up button. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, by the way, I encourage you to click on that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything moving forward, but most importantly, become a part of this awesome community. As you can see, the chat is flowing nice and smooth here as we talk about the Q4 earnings for Tesla and everything that kind of came out of it. I think I've covered the Model 3 delays, Model Y update, the Tesla semi-truck, and the Autopilot. Everything that Elon was talking about. So, you know, it's Tesla Model 3 is definitely continuing to be a pretty hot topic, only overshadowed by the Tesla Roadster that's now flying around at a high speed in space. Ari is going to get me in trouble by saying worse than climate change deniers, they're actually flat earthers. Oh yeah, that's I don't even want to go there. They had a meeting in North Carolina. Wow, really? North Carolina is the spot for that? So surprising. I saw a video, they sound even more pathetic. There was a video on YouTube. Yeah, I don't even know what to say that. I mean, climate change definitely has pros and cons in terms of, like, I really believe that the climate change scientists haven't done a good enough job to bring the science to the masses. And I think they've confused a lot of people by, you know, even changing the terms and stuff like that. So that is actually not a bad discussion. I think that's something that's up for discussion, because I think a lot of terms are not even defined with climate change, but with Earth being round, you know. I mean, I have a proof of that. Do you want to see a proof that I have for that? Let's see. Let's see. I'm going to look for my proof. Oh, there you go. There's my proof. So it's kind of weird. All right. So also let me remind you guys that this show is sponsored in the stream, and the channel is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. The discount code, if you want to save a few bucks, is in the description of this video. Anton says, Alex, no to what? What did I say? Did I get into a climate change argument again? Is that what I did? Tony says, Alex, I couldn't agree with you more. Lucid Air has a great interior. I really like it. It'd be nice when they can truly come to market. Things are not looking as good as I thought they were a few months ago when they announced to move to a much bigger office. But they've been quiet, so I don't know. Maybe something's going on, maybe not, but I definitely would love them. We're talking about Lucid Air. Car prototype that you see here being on the market. There were rumors about Ford possibly acquiring them, and I thought was a great idea, but unfortunately that hasn't really happened. Elon has no plans of quitting Tesla, says Ben. Yeah, of course. He was just offered this amazing 10-year plan where if he hits all the milestones, he becomes by far the richest man on the planet. We've covered that story last week. What do you say, guys? We talk about a few other things that I've talked about earlier in the week as well, and that is the Super Bowl ads. I don't know if you guys watch Super Bowl or just watch Super Bowl ads. By the way, the ads used to be a lot of fun. Now they're not as funny, if you ask me. But yeah, so there were a bunch of car commercials during the Super Bowl, as they usually are. All of them are companies that have at least a hybrid car in their lineup, and there was absolutely no mention of electric cars, electric car technology, self-driving technology at all. Now, don't get me wrong, and I think a lot of people kind of say said, well, wait a second, it doesn't make sense for them to advertise the electric cars, which, they don't sell very as much, versus this car that they believe is going to have a lot of demand, LS 500, which is, by the way, is also questionable because it's an expensive car, but nevertheless, right? And I want to be very clear. I don't mean they should have advertised electric cars or even hybrid cars per se, but I understand an argument against that. But what I'm saying is you could have introduced the technology, right? You could have said that, hey, this is a great car we're introducing, but also we have other cars, including awesome electric car technology with the self-driving technology. You can get great rebates for those cars, right? They love advertising discounts. So why aren't they advertising the biggest discount you can get, which is the rebates and tax incentives for their hybrid and plug-in hybrid cars? What I'm saying is it was a huge opportunity for at least one of these companies, and Kia was one of the advertisers, right? Is to introduce that thought, right? Because they're gonna have to sell these cars at some point, right? They can't delay it forever, and a lot of them do have products coming up in the next 1 or 2 years that are full electric or electric hybrid. Plug-in hybrids. So why not help yourselves? Why not plant that idea in minds of your consumers that you have that, so they can come over and check it out, so that something next time you advertise fully an electric car, that people at least go like, oh yeah, I've heard about that, right? Such an opportunity to miss. As a matter of fact, almost every single car commercial had the engine noise pretty up there, like pretty loud. So they're almost doubling down on this gas technology, and that was kind of sad to see. I was looking forward to seeing maybe there was something, maybe there would even be an ad for, Kia Niro, for example, which they are going to be producing this year on a mass scale. And I thought that was a definitely missed an opportunity. Trade Along 99 says that LS 500 looks like a Camry. Well, don't forget, Camry is a Toyota car, and so is Lexus. Lexus is a luxury brand, and a lot of their cars do look like Toyotas. A lot of times it's because they come up with a car and then a Toyota comes up with a similar design. So, but once you see those cars side by side, you definitely see similarities, which I think is okay. Same thing with Nissan and in Infinity. No, wait. Am I right? Yeah, Nissan and Infinity, right? Oh yeah, Acura and Honda. Okay, I got it right. Cook says, Alex, can you talk about what is the new referral program? Okay, so yeah, so the new referral program is an update and extension of the current referral program, which I already really disliked, with some more confusing additions. So they're basically extending it for 3 months. Now, if you already collected the prizes for the prizes, if you collected, you can really you really don't have any more benefits. They I believe the next car you refer to, both parties get $500 from Tesla in credit. So that's nice, but it's just for the very first one, and I think just makes it a little more confusing. They are also saying that if you sell the next 20, you get to drive the semi-truck right here, as you can see me being behind the wheel. And also you can be enter a drawing to kind of a little lottery if you use a referral link, which you can also find in the description of this video. And that way, when you sign up for their newsletter, which is easy to do and it's free, you enter yourself and a person whose referral link you used, in my case, hopefully mine. Both of those people get to enter a drawing and hopefully win to go and test drive the semi-truck in circles in their design studios in Hawthorne, California. This is why I'm encouraging you guys to do it, because using my link, because that way if we win together, not only we get to go, but I get to cover it for the rest of the community, as I always try to do. So I think there was something else that I might be forgetting. But yeah, so it got extended 3 months. It got a little more complicated. It's got this little perk, which again, for me, it makes sense because I want to, cover this for you. But for a lot of people, especially if you're in another country or another state, even, you have to fly here, stay at the hotel. Tesla doesn't usually cover that. And then you get to ride in a semi-truck, which I'm not really sure if it's really that exciting. I mean, if it was a Roadster, I can see how people would love to get behind of the wheel of that car. But a semi-truck, not sure if the demand is really that high. Again, if you're in Europe, if you're in Canada, that makes your trip very expensive. And of course, I don't know if they're going to do it during the weekend where everything is more expensive, or during the week where you have to take PTO and time off work and your kids and stuff like that. So I just, for me, I'd love to do it just because I can cover it for you guys. But for a regular Joe, I'm not really sure if it's really that big of a deal. Let me know in your chat room on the replay, in a comment section during the replay, if this is something like, let's do this. As far as you're concerned, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you absolutely love this prize, you would love to win this experience, and 1 being like, I don't really care, even if I win, I probably wouldn't go. Rate this from 1 to 10, how important this experience would be for you if you could have a chance to go and drive the semi-truck. Alex, don't drink it. Let's see. Toyota Lexus has always been behind on electric. Yeah, absolutely agree. So it's really, if you think about Honda and Ford and many others. Tony says, careful, Alex. Climate change can be a slippery slope, my friend. By the way, I really can't believe flat earthers exist. I can't believe a lot of things exist, but yeah, but I understand. Yeah, my climate change views are also like, I think I look at it with objective point of view. I'm not blindly saying yes, absolutely 100% everything is true. I have my questions, but my biggest point with the climate change is not so much the science behind it. It's about how we present it to the rest of the world. And I think we've done, and scientists have done a pretty lousy PR job, if you will, selling it to the public that still believes that if there's snowing outside, this can't possibly be global warming. So even the phrasing of the things. But yeah, I know it's an interesting conversation. I think we should be having it once in a while. Varun says, Alex, I only watch Super Bowl ad compilations on YouTube, but that's kind of what I do. I'm not into football myself, so that doesn't really excite me. And Justin Timberlake is not something I'm that excited about. That was a halftime show. Though some of those halftime shows are pretty cool, but you're right, you can just catch up on it on YouTube. But in the last few years, and let me know if you guys agree or not with me, but I don't even find the commercials that exciting or funny. Like this year, I think there will be a couple that were okay. Yeah, so I don't even watch that as much, I have to say. Let's see, and you guys are grading the experience as far as your excitement of a semi-truck experience. Ted gives it an 8, Steven has it at 1, Anton at 2, Alex Young at 2, Coral Irvin is at 19. Wow, you are really excited. Let me know why you're so excited. 10 at 10. John at 8, Frederick at 7. Okay, so Neil at 3. Okay, so a lot of them are okay, I would say about half of you giving it 1, 2, and 3. I would myself also give it a 3. If I was just a customer, I wouldn't really care for it too much, especially with all the logistics and money you have to spend. But some of you are really excited. 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's fair enough. I just kind of wanted to gauge how interested people are. I should probably stop running that video and get to, well, by the way, let me just thank my Patreons once again. Thank you guys so much for contributing. If you want to contribute to the show, and as you know, when I travel to this event, it really costs a lot of money, and just the equipment. I just bought more equipment, so my camera is more stable when I do some of these events. Really appreciate you guys contributing to the show, and in return, I hope you enjoy my exclusive footage, my behind-the-scene footage, and bloopers like I just posted as my thank you. Pretty much weekly, I try to post weekly there as well. So thank you so much for that. Let's move on to the next story, which was Nissan has partnered up with a company in China, and they're actually going to make. They're committing to about 20 electric cars and electric plug-in hybrids in China in the next 2 or 3 years. They're going to produce 20 of them. It's going to be under the name, I forget the name, but under the name of the company they're partnering up. As you know, Tesla is an exception, but most of the time when you want to do business and make cars or anything in China, you have to partner up with a Chinese company, share your trade secrets with them, and only create a product that way. But Nissan is moving into that market. That's one of the best markets to be in nowadays, China, and they're moving into that market, and they're going to be making helping that company make more cars. Also, Nissan Leaf is expanding its sales to a few countries, which normally wouldn't be that big of a deal, but the countries are interesting. I believe it's like New Zealand, like Thailand, Malaysia, and a few other countries that are smaller countries that may not even have an infrastructure for electric cars. So I'm interested in the fact that Nissan is expanding there, which I'm assuming is going to be tough because they have to have, service centers and dealerships, which they already have there mainly, but to support this electric cars that may not just be big, big sellers. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do, but I'm excited because they're obviously going to be the pioneers and sort of the representatives of this new wave of electric car revolution. And I think it's good that even though people may not be buying it right away in those countries, but they're definitely going to be exposed to this technology. Maybe the governments are going to be a little bit more, a little bit faster to create infrastructure or create the incentives and maybe tax rebates. So people are more excited about it. So yes, Nissan moving into those countries, good news for sure. Tony gives it 1 as far as him caring about being behind the wheel of the semi-truck. Let's see. Tesla P85D says, have you guys test-driven Tesla before? Strongly recommend. Just simply test drive it to get a clue what you get on a Model 3 or any Tesla. If you haven't driven Tesla before, guys, you absolutely must. Now be careful because you might buy one. That's what happened to me originally back 2012. But just to know what it's like to drive an electric car, how far the technology have moved, sort of just kind of a general knowledge, I definitely recommend that. All right, let me move on to another story. Okay, so Ionity. Ionity is one of the 3, well now 4, fast charging networks that are being built out in Europe. And they're actually, at the end of the day, they're targeting, this particular one is targeting 400 by the end of 2020. And they are going to be even faster than, by twice as fast as the supercharger networks. And supercharger networks are about 145 kilowatt, though the cars only can take 120. Now these are going to be at 350 kilowatt, which is insane. Now, the first ones that are building right now, I think there's going to be 150 or so. So they're not only going to be that powerful, but nevertheless, they're building them out. They probably by 2020, even with Tesla, building their supercharging network still, are probably going to be a very comparable competitor, and they're mainly being sponsored by other car manufacturers, the Volkswagen Group, BMW, Mercedes, and I think even Ford jump on this one. So this is something that makes sense, right? Car manufacturers investing into a company that's going to be providing the fast charging network for their electric cars in the future. And they're going to be, they're promising about 6 stalls at least per each location. And here's a map that is from electric.co. They've got their hands on the map, which really looks very similar to Tesla superchargers if you think about it right now. Now, by the time Ionity accomplishes this, obviously, Tesla is going to have way more than they have right now. But again, there are 3 other fast charging networks that are being built out pretty aggressively in Europe. So, we talk about how important it is to have a supercharging network for Tesla. And I believe, and a lot of people agree with me, that supercharging network is the best feature of Tesla cars, which is kind of weird because it's not part of the car, right? But it's nevertheless, I believe, is one of the biggest advantages of buying a Tesla, because you have this amazing support of supercharging network around you. And this is why a lot of people, when I ask them, hey, you guys, would you consider buying this car or that car that's coming out? They say, no, we don't care about the car, how great it is. If it doesn't have a fast charging network around it, we don't care. Well, in Europe, it looks like Tesla will definitely have competition now once this is built out. And I see this happening in a couple of years. I mean, at least they're going to be in a decent shape where people will be like, yeah, I'll buy a car that's not Tesla, because there's plenty of fast charging network stalls and locations that I can use. Now, of course, it's going to depend on how many cars those companies who are investing in it to produce, because if they produce a lot of them and there's not enough of fast charging stations, then it's going to be another problem like Tesla's been having with superchargers here in California, in other busy locations where it's kind of like, well, I don't care if there's a supercharger location over there. If I have to wait for 45 minutes to get a stall and another 45 minutes to charge, it's really not worth it anymore. So unless they get into that problem, this is really going to put most other auto manufacturers that produce electric cars on the map, and definitely in direct competition, real competition with Tesla. No Teslas in India to test drive, says Varun. That's correct. And I just did a story, I think, a few weeks ago about Tesla expanding into India and electric cars expanding into India in general. Why it is not going to be that easy. It's mainly because of infrastructure. It's mainly because how electricity being regulated right now in that country, and the lack of any real incentives in Tesla. And of course, people just not having as much money to be able to buy a car like Tesla. I covered it all in that video. I kind of researched it. I'm also going to be interviewed by a New Delhi TV next week. I don't know when it's going to be aired, but I know that it's going to be on New Delhi TV. So hopefully I can contribute to the conversation that they're having for, forget the name of the show, one of the more popular shows in India there. So I'm honored to be asked to do that. I was interviewed by the Russian state TV just another day, and they actually cut me out of their broadcast. So just because you get interviewed doesn't mean it makes it on the air, but still was pretty exciting. And I appreciate such, big news organizations reaching out to me and asking me for their opinion, putting me on their expert lists. That's definitely very humbling. Let's see. Jonathan J says, if there's a Roadster second generation on the back of the Semi, then I will rate my desire to have a test drive experience on a Semi as a 50 on a scale of 1 to 10. That's, yeah, I bet all of us would agree with you. Johnny B says, I'm delayed by 4.5 months. Talking, I'm assuming about your Model 3 reservations. Jan asks, Alex, do you think will Tesla have a connector for this Ionity plug? Well, don't forget that Tesla in Europe are required to have a Type 2 plug and not the Tesla plug that we have here in the United States and Canada. So you can really plug it. I mean, you can't really plug it into, like, you can't use a supercharger with a regular car because you have to have actually an electronic handshake, so that won't work. But the plug is the same. It's Type 2. And I think I completely forgot. Oh, yeah. So it's going to be a matter of software, not the hardware, really, at the end of the day, whether the Tesla superchargers will allow regular cars to charge, non-Tesla cars, electric cars to charge there, and other way around. Will the Ionity network that is being sponsored, that is being sponsored by, other car manufacturers, would they allow Tesla cars being charged on their sponsored network? And I bet the answer is no to both. It's going to be kind of like Apple and Android. I think that's what we're going to do. It is Type 2, but Tesla have a special version of a Type 2 connector, says Jan. So that's the thing. I don't know if the Ionity is going to have that type of a connector or not. And so I'm assuming not. But that would even make it worse. I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna take that back. I don't know. Until they build it out, and for those of you guys who are in Europe and maybe you guys already have an Ionity station somewhere, I would like to hear from you. Maybe you can create a video or take some pictures that I will definitely feature on the show, and we'll definitely talk about it. So I'm just gonna roll back my statement and say that I really don't know what's going to happen with that. And if it's a hardware issue, then you can still solve it with adapters, right? But you can't solve the issue of a current being too powerful for the car that's not ready to receive it. You can't solve the issue of cars requiring the stations requiring a electronics handshake between the car and a charger for it to even work, right? Ben says, is non-Tesla chargers even useful or reliable? Well, they're useful. I mean, we have ChargePoint and a Blink network here, and Ionic, I'm sure, is going to be at least as good as that. But and I think they're pretty reliable. Yeah. So I mean, it's just a matter of having them, right? A lot of them just have level 1 and 2 charging, where we need higher level of fast charging. Jesus Christ says, how's EV movement in Russia? There is a channel, I think it's called Tesla Moscow Tesla Club. They have about 16,000 subscribers, which is, you know, for a country that has 150 million people, is really not that much. From what I understand, there are very few Teslas in Russia. I don't even know if there's a supercharger station in Russia at all, but it's slow, right? I mean, it's slow. That country lives off of oil. Oil is one of their main exports. So obviously the government is not going to subsidize or help in any way for people to buy them, but more and more people are buying them there. I mean, obviously people with a lot of money and they're making videos, which is great. Yeah, Russia is just not the country where I would expect Tesla revolution to advance very quickly. Let's see. Volkswagen Golf says P85D says uses the CCS plug. So they're sure it will be this one. So for sure this will be this one. Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good assumption. Okay, more news, which actually this is a big news, guys. And I know with everything we talked about, especially about the Model 3 stuff and the Falcon Heavy launch, this is maybe not that big of a deal, but let me tell you, I really think it is. I think it's a huge deal, and this is this. Let me just take a sip of water while you're admiring. This is freeze frame from their teaser. I gotta tell you, the teaser is just a bunch of graphics, so I wasn't even gonna show you this. This is really the best shot of that car that you can see. Now, as you know, Hyundai just released Nexo at CES, and I covered it, and I have a separate video about it, but it's a hydrogen fuel cell car. So, you know, that's a compliance car as far as US and Canada is concerned. And you know, even though I did a report, I still don't believe the hydrogen fuel cell cars are ever going to make it. But this one, Hyundai says that they're going to have a Kona EV. It's going to be this year. The realistic range, they promised 300 miles, but realistic range seems to be 250 miles, which is pretty good. And they're ready to go. They're saying they're going to start basically selling it this summer. Now, first of all, this is a very similar strategy that Kia, which is kind of a sister company, you know, they have what was it? A little over a third percent share in the other companies. So they're kind of sister companies. So they a lot of times their technology is very similar. But so Kia Niro EV was announced at CES. The reason I stumble is I don't remember if it's Hyundai that owns a third of Kia, or Kia that owns a third of Hyundai. I believe it's Hyundai that owns a third of Kia. Correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody can Google it, I'm afraid to say something that people will jump on me and say, well, I wasn't sure. I just don't remember which one. But basically, one has an investment, a significant investment in another, so they're kind of sister companies. All right. Kia Niro EV was unveiled at the CES, which I think was one of the biggest news. Not the flashiest news, but the biggest news, because this is electric SUV, something that people have been asking about for a long time. It has a 238-mile range to kind of match the Chevy Bolt range. It looks pretty good. And most importantly, Kia Niro is already being produced as a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid. So really, they just have to kick out the engine, right, the gas engine, and replace the battery with a bigger battery, and they're done. Now, as you can see, it looks a little bit smoother and better than the current Niro version, but that's just a matter of making some extra panels. It's not a big a deal for them. So Kia says, yeah, they're going to unveil the car. We're going to start production this summer, and by the end of the year, you'll be able to buy it. It's expected to be under $40,000, so relatively reasonable. Obviously, there are plenty of tax rebates to be available in the United States. They're not going to run out anytime soon, like Tesla or Nissan. And I always thought, I mean, this is a pretty good competitor, because Model Y hasn't even been announced. Probably not going to be in production until 2020, maybe even 2021, depends on how things go. So I thought that Kia is really making a major statement here. But now Hyundai, still not pronouncing it right, with Kona EV, they're saying they're going to start selling it during summer. The range is going to be even bigger than Niro EV at 250 or so. As you know, once again, it's the same strategy. This is a current Hyundai Kona that you can buy in a gas version. I believe there's a hybrid version as well. So really, they got that going on. The car is already already been architectured, so they just have to make sure it's electric, which they have. They have the technology for the battery. They don't have a supercharging network. I mean, and that's something that we're, always talk about. But nevertheless, I think this is a big deal. I think this is a big news because a lot of people might just buy it. And, people say, well, I don't want to buy it because there's no supercharging network. And that's fine. That's fair. But some people will, because that car will have all the incentives, right? So it's going to be a relatively cheap car. And if you have another car in a family, right? Most families here in the United States have 2 cars at least. And for the long distance trips, they can have their main car, which could be a Tesla or could be a gas car. And for the daily commuter, or short distance travel, they can have this car that's going to be very affordable, a very nice car that they can get, maybe even cheaper than a gas car of the same version of a gas car because of all the incentives. So I can see this, I can see this happening. And then, of course, in Europe, once they're going to start selling these cars and the fast charging networks like Ionity and Mega E grow, this will make more and more sense in Europe. So I think this is a big deal. This was one of other news that we've had this week. Just never got to it. And by the way, I did find a picture of Earth reflecting on the Roadster, which I think is an amazing picture. You can interpret it in so many different ways, but definitely the fact that it's reflecting on the car, looking back at Earth, that it's trying to fix, is definitely an amazing picture. All right, let's see. Is it 4-wheel drive? Asks Tesla PD5D. You know what? I don't know. I'll look it up. My bad. I should have. I don't know. Let's see. Well, we have no superchargers here anyway, says Fripp. Let me know where you're actually located. I'm just kind of scanning the chat room. But yeah, what a week. I have to say, this week has been absolutely amazing. I mean, definitely because of the Falcon Heavy launch. And, let's watch that video again, guys. I mean, I can't get enough of it. I really can't. Because of this, obviously, because of Tesla in space, because of, Tesla just, we have to understand, a lot of people don't know what the hell Tesla is, how to pronounce it, or can even afford it. So the fact that millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions of people in the world saw this, got excited about this, and after that they saw this, this is a big promotion for Tesla. I hope there are a lot of millions of people out there for the first time saw it and say, hey, what is this Tesla car? Like, what is the, I want to know more about it. Oh, it's an electric car? How does it work? I really hope, if anything, this is not just a promotion for Tesla, but a promotion for electric car technology in around the world where people just don't know much about it, never heard of it, never cared to explore. And now hopefully the conversation is kind of, moves there. Fripp says, I live in Vaasa in Finland, not many Teslas here. How close is your closest supercharger? Because there got to be superchargers in Finland. Okay, Isaac Park in the chat room says Hyundai owns Kia. So Hyundai Group owns 33 and almost 34% of Kia. And that's why they're kind of sister companies, but kind of not. Flat Earth Club, new story. You guys are exchanging links for the Flat Earth Club. You guys really just want to raise your blood pressure by watching those videos? I mean, you're not going to get any scientific data from the video about how flat the Earth is, unless you just want to have a very exciting afternoon arguing about it on Facebook, which is not a bad way to spend time, I guess. Oh, I haven't eaten anything today, so this is my fix of yogurt. All right. Well, guys, I am losing my voice, and I also am kind of hungry now. I think we've covered everything. I mean, I'm pretty excited. This week has really definitely been an amazing week for all of us. Oh, Varun says, Alex, come on, flat Earth videos are very funny. Okay, I'll give you that. And maybe you can get a good laugh. But All right. Ari says, Alex, we want a good laugh. It is a way to see some Trump voters on screen. Okay. Okay. All right. I'll take it back. You guys go ahead and check it out. I might actually do it myself as well. I was actually thinking about going to the nice little beach town of Santa Cruz for the rest of the day. Enjoy the sun. It's really sunny in here in my Tesla. There are no, I wish there was a supercharger in Santa Cruz, actually. I'm kind of surprised there's the next supercharger when you go that way is Monterey, California. For those of you guys are in the area, can definitely attest to that. All right, I am definitely excited for the next week. There should be some interesting news, I'm still interested in how the community is reacting to the Model 3 delays. I don't know if Tesla's going to come up with any more answers for us. And I'm interested to see whether the Autopilot stuff is going to be coming out anytime soon. That's definitely something that will do a lot of testing. I'm sure a lot of other YouTubers are going to do a lot of testing, but I really, really hope so. I really hope that it is at least as good as the 1.0 Autopilot, so we can put that to rest and Tesla can finally move on with a 2.5 version and just make it better and better. As we all know, they're kind of behind. All right, guys, my voice is almost done here, and I'm sure you can move on with your day as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This was fun. Definitely don't forget to click on the thumbs up as you're leaving, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because I hope you understand this is fun. And every day I go live at 11 a.m. Pacific time to bring you all the latest news of the day, which there are plenty. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me, guys. Have a great afternoon or a night wherever you're at. Let's have another great week. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.